Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Tau Empire, more specifically, Tau-controlled human worlds, and what it's like to live on them. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on Tau-controlled human worlds. The Tau Empire is no stranger to planetary conquest, but unlike so many other intelligent species that wage war in the Milky Way galaxy, the Tau's control of a planet doesn't mean a genocide for its native population. The greater good teaches cooperation with non-Tau lifeforms, so long as they adopt and adhere to their teachings. From Vespids to the Demiruk, hundreds of Tau-controlled planets are home to a diverse population of xeno-lifeforms that live side by side with the Tau. Humanity is no stranger to cooperation with the Tau. Many planets, once controlled by the Imperium, have been captured or turned over to the Tau Empire as its spheres of expansion drive deeper into Imperial space. These human populations more often than not willingly join the Tau Empire, as it is a way to escape the stagnant and bureaucratic oppression of the Imperium of Man. These Imperial traders are referred to as Guevesa, which translates to human helper in the Tau lexicon. Because the greater good is designed to be so inclusive, many human worlds willingly fight to expand the Tau Empire and contribute all they can to help strengthen the greater good. Turning away from the Imperium is not something that happens overnight. For many Tau-controlled human planets, the conversion is done slowly, often through very subtle acts of diplomacy that inch the ruling planetary governor towards accepting the Tau Empire's invitation. While it is the Watercast's intention to be diplomatic and peaceful, the nature of these complicated and delicate matters sometimes calls for acts of subversion and violence in order to convince the human population to accept the greater good. One example of this complicated game of diplomacy was seen on the now Tau-controlled human world of Zorkon in the Ultima Segmentum. Zorkon was once a glittering jewel of the Imperium, existing beyond the core world borders of the old Jericho sector, but owing fealty to the lords of Veronis. In common with only a handful of other worlds in the Jericho Reach, Zorkon remained faithful to the Pax Imperium, even after the last Imperial Navy warship abandoned the region and the sector's Age of Shadows began. When the Tau discovered Zorkon, the Watercast knew immediately that they would not easily usurp the population's faith in their distant, yet still present God Emperor, and so they concocted an ingenious plan. Over the course of a solar decade, Tau agents infiltrated the ruling class of Zorkon and insinuated their own proxies into their structure. By way of a series of assassinations, painless re-educations, and subtle coups, Tau agents took over the planetary government without the populace ever knowing of it. In fact, the average citizen was entirely unaware of the Tau, and ignorant of the fact that the world was entirely in the thrall of the Tau Empire, and only the very highest places in the government actually knew the facts. The Watercast fully intended to slowly usurp the Imperial Creed, which has endured in Zorkon for many thousands of Terran years, yet they know they must do so slowly, lest the people rise up in rebellion. To date, this program is only partially complete, and the Tau have gone to great lengths to ensure that the Imperium will not discover the world and upset their plans. For the Tau, this is a waiting game they are gladly playing, as the planet's resources are already aiding the Tau Empire, and its population is unknowingly preparing to rebel against its own people and cast aside the shackles of the Imperium. And then there are always some human planets that instantly realize the advantage of becoming part of the Tau Empire. Their technological advancements and the fact that they embrace innovation and enlightenment is an easy sell for the oppressed human masses. These worlds are often transformed into magnificent utopias compared to their former status in the Imperium. Such was the case for the Tau human-controlled world of Tusa Malor, a once populous planet that was transformed by Earthcast architects into a shining example of Tau civilization and enlightenment. Few sights in the galaxy are as magnificent as the skyline of this planet's vast equatorial city. Stretching around the desert world's circumference, it houses millions of Tau settlers and the great edifices of learning and government. A small number of ethereals and ambassadors gather in the kilometer-high edifice known to the human population as the Transcendents. Each caste has its own district in the equatorial city, from floating tethered platforms of the air caste to the bronze-walled fortresses of the earth caste. Several billion humans that continue to call this world home live in the cities cut from the rocky desert by the imperial pilgrim settlers that came here thousands of Terran years before. Every city has a Tau quarter of glittering spires and grand pavilions, where the human leaders gathered to listen to the wisdom of the Tau ambassadors. One of these cities, Beldar, is home to the Gayretha, a research institute and university to which the Tau transport all the brightest and most talented humans to educate them in the Tau philosophy and technology. And strangely, attached to this university is a place which the Tau declined to name, but the humans call Lacuna. This underground research facility is where the Tau conduct psychological experiments on human prisoners, or so it is said. The results of these experiments supposedly help the Tau refine their methods of social manipulation, but no one can be sure, since any who utters any thought vanishes completely, possibly into the Lacuna itself. And then there are those human worlds that eventually grow dissatisfied with the Tau's presence on their planet. In these situations, the Tau have already spread through every facade of society, and the rebellion will more than likely end in failure and death for the human nobles or the elites. One of the Tau-controlled human planets that experience this is Jaya. It is a kind of tributary world to the Velkhan Sept in the Jericho Reach. Due to its position far beyond the core-word borders of the old Jericho sector, it played little part in the sector-wide society or economy, and its population was largely self-sufficient. Jaya was able to survive the worst of the Age of Shadow, largely untouched by the war and anarchy that was sweeping through the region. Its people continued the life they had since the planet was colonized by ancient man. The old human colonists realized the potential of this secluded planet. They knew that with some work, humanity would be able to tap into the abundant natural resources and spread throughout the world's 3 major continent masses that were surrounded by warm seas teeming with life. The natives of Jaya built a relatively advanced cultural and technological society, and then the Tau came. The people of Jaya first welcomed the Tau, for they had no reason to doubt the aliens' message of peace and cooperation. It soon became apparent to the world's leaders that the Tau expected more than cooperation, and they desired that Jaya submit to their rule. The people of Jaya had come to value their independence and self-sufficiency, and its rulers were unwilling to be made proxies for another empire. Too late, however, the armies of Jaya were mustered. Citizen militias were unused to the realities of full-scale war throughout the entire planet. Rising up in an attempt to expel the Tau from their world completely failed. The ensuing battle was a disaster for the natives, and the Tau used these attacks as justification for a campaign of rapid and total suppression. Within 6 solar months, the entire population of Jaya was under the Tau Empire's rule, the last bit of resistance retiring to the inaccessible uplands of the world's 3rd continent. Tau rule was total for several solar decades, until the arrival of High Fleet Dagon. Vanguard organisms ranging ahead of the main Tyranid High Fleet infiltrated the isolationist survivors of the original resistance, tainting them genetically and turning them into pawns for the hive mind. Following this vector of infestation, the xenotaint spread outward, and soon vast swaths of the population had become corrupted and enthralled to the still distant will of the Tyranids. The infestation was discovered by the Tau during routine genetic sampling of the human population. The Earth-caste scientists were shocked at the extent of this genetic corruption, yet they had no idea what it might foreshadow. These infected appeared not to be aware of their blight, and had yet to act against the Tau. It was surmised that the infestation may have implanted some latent form of gene code domination that had yet to be activated, and an extensive study was implemented to ascertain its true nature. Amazingly, the Tau made rapid inroads in combating the genetic taint, using gene recoding techniques all but unknown to the biologist adeptus of the Adeptus Mechanicus. And now Jaya's fate hangs in the balance. Around half of the population has been recoded by Earth-caste cadres working around the clock, yet still the process is expected to take at least another year. The Tau have realized that if any infected human remains untreated when the call of the hive mind activates, then disaster might ensue. To this end, Firecast pursuit teams are combing the wilderness of the 3rd continent in search of every last isolationist human, intent upon recoding every last human before it's too late. The world has been quarantined so that the taint does not spread any further, but also to ensure that the Imperium does not learn of this recoding mission. The upper echelons of the Velkhan Sept have realized that keeping such successful genetic manipulation a secret might ultimately prove a significant advantage for the greater good. And those were 40 facts on Tau-controlled human world. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
always used to put my freedom first in any situation.